When Benton hit middle age, he shacked up with his young student. He asked me for a divorce, saying he'd rather leave with nothing than see my ugly old face again. On the way to the courthouse, I got hit by a car and ended up in a coma. I overheard my adopted daughter Bella talking to Benton. "Dad, if Mom doesn't wake up, will you marry Kate? After all, Kate's my real mom, and I've always dreamed of us being together as a family." Benton quietly replied, "Let's arrange Mary's funeral first. Then we'll deal with my wedding to Kate." When I opened my eyes, I was back in the late 80s. In this year, Benton and I had just gotten married, and we'd just found our adopted daughter Bella. In this year, the girl Benton loved had worked hard to get into a top university and planned to study in the UK. This time, all the mistakes have returned to their origin, and I get a chance to right them. The sound of a baby crying brought me back to reality. I looked around confusedly. I was in a small room, with celebratory red decorations on the walls and a wedding photo nearby. The words read, "Wishing Benton and Mary a lifetime of happiness and unity." Behind the door, a calendar showed the date, August 21st, 1988. Just then, the door swung open, and Benton walked in holding a fish. He looked in his 20s, a young, handsome guy with an air of refinement. You can hear the baby crying from outside. "What's going on?" he asked, walking over, brows furrowed. "Why are you daydreaming? Go make some formula for Bella." Bella was a baby I found abandoned at our doorstep a month before the 1988 college entrance exams. I looked at her in disgust and put the baby on the bed. I picked up a damp cloth and wiped my hands clean, one finger at a time. This daughter, whom I pampered in my past life, now held no trace of my affection. When I looked up, Benton was squatting and cleaning the fish with practiced ease. "I have 3 students coming over for dinner this afternoon. They're this year's top grads, all headed for top universities. Make a few of your specialties," he instructed out of habit. I didn't respond. Benton seemed surprised. "Aren't you curious who they are?" I just chuckled to myself. I couldn't recall the names of the other 2 students, but one girl's name I would never forget, Kate. Dinner kicked off around 5. Teacher and students were chatting happily about college entrance exams and dreaming of their futures. I stayed quiet, didn't feel like joining in. Kate sat across from me. She was 3 years younger, with a sweet, innocent look. Wearing an oversized school uniform, her figure was hidden, and her complexion seemed off. She quietly ate and sometimes glanced at the baby. In my past life, Benton briefly mentioned that his student Kate had contracted an infectious disease. For health reasons and to prep for her exams, she stayed home for the last 2 months of studies. He would occasionally visit to tutor her. I didn't think much of it then because it seemed normal. Looking back now, it was probably to hide her baby bump. "Let's have a toast." Benton poured drinks for the 2 male students and gave Kate a warm cup of sweetened water. "First, congratulations on getting into top universities. You'll always make me proud. And may your futures be bright and smooth sailing." After his speech, Benton handed each of his students an envelope, softly saying, "Studying abroad in the UK is expensive. It's not much, but consider it a small gift from me and your teacher's wife." Overwhelmed, the students refused, not daring to accept. Benton persisted, and they finally gave in. Each envelope contained 100 yuan, evenly distributed. But I saw Benton sneaking a thick stack of money into Kate's bag when no one was looking. It was all his savings, meant for funding Kate's education. After graduating, Kate got a great job, married a wealthy guy, and lived a comfortable life. Then her husband's stock gambles and betting went south, and he jumped off a building. Her son got into a fatal drunk driving accident. She owed huge debts and had to run back home, reconnecting with Benton. It was like a long-awaited rain in a drought. They rekindled their love in middle age. Benton, now a principal, paid off all her debts. I was furious, fought, argued, and accused her of being shameless. Her retort? "You should get plastic surgery before you scare people with that face." The ugly scar on my face came from when Bella was 4 and jumping on the bed. She almost fell on the burning hot heater, and I pushed her out of the way. But I fell, my face hitting the red-hot coils. I still can't forget the sizzling sound or the searing pain. I was scarred for life. After that, Benton rarely touched me, The one time he did drunk, he threw up when he saw my face. I pretended not to understand, deceiving myself. But then he said, "I'm not throwing up because of your face. Don't take it personally." Remembering all this made me bitter. Benton noticed something was up and softly asked, "What's wrong, Mary?" I touched my smooth face and feigned sadness. "Ran into a neighbor from home today. He said my dad hurt his back carrying water. I want to visit him." Benton blurted out, "What about Bella if you go?" Realizing his slip, he laughed awkwardly. "Even if you went, you can't help much, right? Maybe send some money home? I have a graduating class and school starting early this year. I'm swamped." I firmly replied, "I have to go. If needed, I'll take Bella with me." Unhappy, Benton shot back, "She's just a baby. You can't take her on a long bus ride." The room went silent for a bit, tension hanging. Then Kate timidly offered, "How about I handle it? I can help Mary with the baby during the day and hand her to the teacher after work." Before Benton could speak, I beat him to it with teary eyes, saying to Kate, "That'd be amazing." "Thank you, Kate. How can I ever repay you?" With a smile, Kate said, "You and the teacher have helped me a lot with my studies and life. This is the least I can do." Benton's excitement was nearly visible, though he pretended to be stern with me. "Make it quick. Kate's leaving for the UK soon, and has paperwork and packing to do. We shouldn't burden her too much." "Got it," I replied. I nodded. Secretly, I took out a small double-sided folding mirror and checked under the table. Just then, Kate took off her cloth shoes and started rubbing her bare feet against Benton's crotch. Benton gulped, his cheeks flushed, downing drink after drink, laughing. "This drink packs a punch, it's going straight to my head." Ha, what a pair of cheats. The next day, I had my bags packed early. I only left after Kate arrived. Benton personally bought my ticket and saw me to the long-distance bus. I waved him goodbye. Once the bus left town, I got off and walked back, heading straight for the photo studio on the west side of town. "Boss, do you have a camcorder here?" The boss smiled and asked, "Young lady, planning to record a wedding?" I shook my head, planning to film something spicy. No point in accusing without proof. I needed to show the school and workplace what these two cheats were up to. But the boss said the camcorder was borrowed and wouldn't be back for 2 or 3 days. Could I wait? I frowned. I could wait, but I was afraid things might change. Suddenly, I remembered something. Back in my previous life, around this time, a young man from New York stopped me on the street, told me I looked great, and asked if I wanted to try acting. He said he'd leave on the 8th, and if I was interested, I could attend an interview at a hotel. When I told Benton about it at home, he said I was just a middle school graduate, a waitress with no culture and old-fashioned looks. How could something so good happen to me? He said the guy was probably a scam artist and wouldn't let me go, told me to stay home and take care of the kids. Back then I was too young and thought he loved me and was looking out for me. Many years later, I saw that New York man on TV. He was Mark, a famous director, former actor, twice crowned Best Actor, who groomed many superstars. Catching Benton and Kate in the act was important, but the interview was even more so. This time, I had to go. I took the bus heading toward the hotel. After getting off from a distance, I saw a classy black sedan parked at the hotel entrance. A group of well-dressed people, both men and women, walked out dragging suitcases. Leading the group was a tall man, in a white shirt and jeans, wearing sunglasses, looking dapper. I recognized him immediately. Mark. Mark shook hands with the middle-aged man and turned to get into the car. "Director," I called out, rushing towards them. But in my haste, I bumped into a tricycle carrying swill. As I fell, the sticky, stinking swill splattered all over me. Ignoring the pain, I limped toward them. "Director, please wait." Mark pinched his nose, stepping back, frowning. "Who might you be?" I dared not approach, hurriedly saying, "You forgot? You saw me on the street before, said I looked good, and invited me for an interview today." Mark took off his sunglasses. That handsome mixed face, he looked at me and chuckled, speaking in broken Mandarin. "Oh, that's right, we did talk about that." I was delighted and was about to step closer. But suddenly Mark said, "However, I scheduled you for the 21st, and today's the 8th, so technically you missed it. I hate tardy people. It's very unprofessional. You can leave." I froze. It had been nearly 30 years, and I remembered the interview with the New York director, but honestly didn't remember the exact date. Opportunities like this don't come twice. I couldn't give up. I stepped forward, grabbing Mark's arm. Tears in my eyes. "I'm sorry, director. Something bad happened at home." Mark disdainfully shook me off. "Leave immediately, or I'll call security." I knelt down right there, begging desperately, "Please, give me one more chance." Clearly, no one expected me to humble myself like this. Mark was unmoved. "This won't work. I need a local girl who can play the piano and is bright and innocent. Your look matches, but your eyes lack any sparkle, as if they're from someone who's given up. You're not suitable. Don't waste our time. You should leave." I was stunned. Deep down, I was surprised. Incredible how perceptive a famous director could be. Just then, a chubby girl next to Mark leaned in and whispered, "Don't you think her demeanor is a bit like the character Helen?" Mark frowned. "You're kidding, right? I've seen many award-winning actresses for Helen. None impressed me. What's she?" The chubby girl shrugged. "Sorry, just my opinion, but it's your call." Mark put on his glasses and walked around me. I felt my strength leave me, slumping onto the ground. Yeah, even reincarnation didn't mean Lady Luck would bless me. Suddenly, Mark stopped, turned back, and looked at me for a long time. "Let her try out for Helen." Moments later, I learned the girl who spoke for me was named Lily, Mark's assistant. Mark gave me 10 minutes, along with a simple script page. Just a small piece about Helen, a middle-aged woman from the Republic era, resenting her military officer husband for his mistress. He didn't tell me more. How I interpreted and performed the role was up to me. Without any background info, how do I act it out? I didn't know. I had no formal acting training. I quickly recalled countless TV dramas about unhappy marriages and women. I had seen many of those roles. I planned to imitate one. But how could I stand out by imitating? In the end, I decided to go for broke and play myself. I asked Lily to act as my husband, not needing any lines, just to step in 10 minutes later. The performance began. Mark sat in a chair, still wearing sunglasses, legs crossed. His male assistant held a small camcorder, standing quietly by the side. Action. Mark was worried I wouldn't understand, so he repeated it in Mandarin. "Let's begin." My heart skipped a beat. I was super nervous. I imagined Benton going after Kate again. He rented an apartment for her, and they moved in together officially. He told me he'd sue if I didn't agree to divorce. My hands shook as I dialed the hotel phone over and over, hanging up again and again. When I couldn't get through, I smashed the phone. Then I broke cups, chairs, anything I could find like I lost it. I thought about slashing my wrists to see if he'd feel any regret or sadness. Holding a shard against my wrist, I hesitated. Later, I cleaned up the mess, set the table right, and just sat there staring silently at the door. That's when my husband walked in. "I'm back," said Lily, as she changed her shoes. I didn't say anything, didn't ask where he'd been. I just looked at him, tears falling uncontrollably. Lily seemed uncomfortable with my stare. "Why are you looking at me like that?" I was biting my lip to keep quiet, just staring at him. For all those years, I gave so much for Benton. I took care of his mom when she was paralyzed until she passed. I raised Bella for 27 years. I took care of him, every meal, every day. Maybe I didn't accomplish much, but I worked hard. So why did he want to leave me? This is my marriage, my home, my husband. I'll never give Kate up, not even if it kills me. I stood up, trying to stay calm, but my body was shaking. "Let's have dinner. We're having noodles tonight." The scene cut, audition over. Mark stayed quiet for a while. He suddenly asked MS, "Mary, have you been through a bad breakup? Or has someone tormented you?" "Yeah, in this messed up marriage, I've been ignored and lied to for almost 30 years. I shook my head, making up stuff. "No. I just imagined myself as an old-time woman trapped in a marriage, sexually repressed, and ground down by life, almost becoming a psycho in the end. I channeled that character." Mark looked at me, thinking for a few seconds. MS, "Mary, are you interested in signing with me?" Feeling the warmth coming back to me, I said yes. Mark smiled. MS, "Mary, you're decisive. You cool with going to New York?" I nodded. "No problem, but I need a favor." I pointed to the camera in the assistant's hand. The night was deep. I raced home, my pace hurried. Mark was alongside, grumbling. I must be crazy, catching someone cheating, filming this dirty stuff in the middle of the night. I looked at him embarrassed, bowing repeatedly, sorry for the trouble. Mark's face was all impatience. Just get divorced already. Why make it so complicated? I lowered my gaze. Divorce? Not that easy. I want them to live with this pain and shame forever. I unlocked the front door, sneaking in quietly. The small courtyard housed 2 families. Lucky for me, the neighbor was back in their hometown. I got to my doorstep. Inside, there were no lights, but the bed squeaked like crazy, along with the faint sounds of a woman and a man's heavy breathing. Mark leaned over, teasing, "Your husband's got some stamina." Shooting him a glare, I took a deep breath and kicked the door open. A scream from a startled woman echoed inside. I quickly found the light string at the door, pulled it, and the room lit up. 2 bare bodies intertwined caught my eye. Kate, like a scared rabbit, hid under Benton, covering herself. Benton stared at me wide-eyed, quickly pulling away from her. He grabbed a sheet, covering his naked mistress beside him. "Mary, you aren't you?" Benton's face still flushed, his hair wet with sweat, fumbled with his pants. Then he saw Mark. "Who the hell are you?" Mark ignored him. He kept his cool as the director he is, holding the camera steady, focusing on Kate's face. Benton freaked. "What's that in your hand? Is that a camera? Stop filming." He grabbed a chair to throw at Mark's head. I shouted, "Watch out, mister." "Mark." Mark instinctively blocked it with his arm and kicked Benton in the stomach. Benton stumbled back several steps, hitting the desk, which kept him from falling. Mark closed the camera, carefully putting it in his backpack. He marched forward, grabbing Benton by the throat, throwing him to the ground, twisting his arm behind him, pinning him down. He was quick, clearly trained. Benton struggled hard, questioning me. "Mary, who is he? Are you cheating on me?" There were noises outside. A neighbor lady asked, "Mary, Benton, what's going on?" I walked out, smiling at the curious neighbors. "Nothing much, just a rat got in. We're dealing with it." I closed the door, giving a quick glance at a shivering Kate, walking slowly to Benton. "Let's talk." The ticking from the wall clock was the only sound, tears streaming down Kate's face. In silence, Benton spoke. "Kate, go home. I'll handle this." She got up to leave upon hearing this. I rolled my sleeves. "No, stay here. You're not going anywhere." Benton blocked me from approaching Kate, visibly angry. "Mary, didn't you say your dad got hurt? Why are you back in the middle of the night? You planned this, didn't you? And who is that guy, some lover of yours? How long have you been seeing each other?" See, this was Benton. Back then, when I caught him in a hotel with Kate, he never admitted his mistake, just insulted me instead. In his eyes, I had no redeeming qualities. If I played a little mahjong with colleagues, I was a gambling addict neglecting home. When my brother was hospitalized after an accident, and I gave $2,000, he saw it as me endlessly supporting my family. He's put up with me for decades, couldn't take it anymore, and was willing to leave with nothing. Leave with nothing? As if he had any money left. The house was sold, and all the savings went towards paying off Kate's debt. He even coached his daughter to lie, making her say she owed a high-interest loan from online gambling, scamming me out of $150K. I held back, desperately resisting the urge to kill him, then turned to look at Mark. Mark looked impatient, grabbed a novel from the shelf, and casually pulled up a chair. He sat at the door like he owned the place, legs crossed as he read. I crossed my arms and stared at Benton. "That guy is someone I hired to catch cheaters. Not even 10 of you could beat him, so you better behave. Plus, a lot of your school's staff live here. Causing a scene wouldn't be good for your reputation." I nodded towards Kate. It wouldn't be good for her either. Benton stayed silent for a few minutes. Suddenly he sighed, looking guilty. "Mary, this has nothing to do with Kate. It's just that I had a few drinks with colleagues today, came back, saw Kate, and mistook her for you." I laughed. "So you're saying you raped Kate?" I looked at Kate. "Want me to take you to the police?" "Don't be scared, we have the evidence on tape." Kate shivered and said, "No, I won't go." She lowered her head. "The teacher has been so kind to me. I can't blame him." I scoffed. "Oh, so you're saying Benton did rape you, but you've forgiven him?" "Yet, I couldn't help but notice you didn't resist much earlier." Seemed like you enjoyed it. Mark couldn't help it and chuckled. Benton gritted his teeth. Mary, we are husband and wife. Let's talk behind closed doors. My reputation takes a hit, and what's in it for you? I can admit I'm wrong. Kneel if I must, just please destroy the tape. Kate also began to cry, swearing. Madam, I'm sorry. I'll write you a guarantee, never to see Benton again in my life. I laughed. Not seeing Benton? Is that possible? Does your daughter Bella agree? Sure enough, Kate's face turned pale, and her lips trembled. Benton, furious and embarrassed. Why drag Bella into this? She was abandoned. I interrupted coolly. Abandoned, you sure? I spoke slowly. On May 10, 1988, just 3 months ago, I found this child on our doorstep. In the basket were some cloth diapers and a note. The note, written in a shaky hand, said the kid's mom's-in-law's favorite sons, and her previous 2 daughters were drowned. She couldn't bear it for this child. She found out Benton was the most educated, and Mary the kindest in this alley. She begged us to take in this poor child. Benton, you reported it back then, and soon brought the child back, saying the cops suggested we keep it for now in case the mother came back. Then in my past life, I've raised that child for 27 years straight. I walked over and picked up the baby from the bed. Before Kate's college entrance exams, she took a 2-month leave. What did she do then? Benton, why'd you give her so much money? Because this kid is actually Kate's. I grabbed Kate's arm. Come on, let's get a blood test at the hospital. Kate sobbed and struggled to break free. I won't go, Benton, help me. Benton yanked me away. Stop this. If you don't want to raise the abandoned child, just say so. No need to slander Kate. I raised the baby. If it's not Kate's, might as well throw it. No. Kate rushed over and snatched the baby. See, no need for a blood test. Her maternal instincts say it all. Kate, realizing she's busted, slumped, holding the baby quietly, only crying. Benton crouched on the ground, fingers through his hair. The room sank into silence again. After a long pause, Benton spoke. Mary, what do you want? What do I want? I took a deep breath. First, a divorce. Second, I want Kate's college acceptance letter. Impossible. Benton erupted. She's a rural kid who worked hard to get into a prestigious college. Asking for her acceptance letter is like ruining her future. Mary, you're too cruel. I stared coldly at Benton. In both my past life and now, I was never his first choice. He was always Kate's support, backing her, protecting her. I nodded and smiled, giving a thumbs up. Bravo, you're quite the romantic. I looked at Kate. Kate, you're good at math, right? Let's do some arithmetic. You're 19 now, and you were 18 when pregnant with Bella. It's rarely a one-time deal. So when Benton slept with you, were you even of age? I smiled and asked Benton. You're educated, Benton. Engaging with a minor student is a crime, right? Panic rose in Benton's eyes. And no. When I was with Kate, she was already an adult. Believe what you want. Believe. I clapped and laughed. Of course, I believe Benton. But maybe school officials, the education board, and Kate's college professors won't. Just then Kate fell to her knees. She held the baby in one arm, and with the other pressed scissors to her neck, looking determined. If I can't go to college, I'd rather die with this child. Madam, isn't it my life you're after? Fine, you can have it. Mark, realizing the situation, stood up. I waved him off, signaling not to bother. Benton rushed to snatch the scissors away from Kate, holding her tightly. Don't do anything foolish. Then he turned to glare at me. His eyes filled with resentment, as if he wanted to devour me. Mary, you're so wicked, driving someone to death. I let out a cold laugh. If she truly dares to die, I'd respect her for having some decency. Unfortunately, she's too selfish to dare. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It was 1 a.m. Now, I've dragged this out long enough and I'm tired. I yawned and started to leave. I'm going to wake up the neighbors to watch the drama. Then I'm heading to the police to report this. Either Benton goes to jail for raping a student, or you both suffer the consequences, losing face, jobs, and education opportunities. Choose. Benton rushed to block my way. Mary, we were once married. Do you really have to take it this far? No room for negotiation at all? I stared straight at him. You cheated on me on our marital bed. Did you leave me any room then? Benton, struggling to contain his anger, looked at me for a long time. "You'll let go if I agree to divorce and hand over the acceptance letter, right?" I smiled and nodded. Benton looked at Kate and said, "Go get the acceptance letter." Kate shook her head like a rattle. "No way, college is everything to me." Benton walked over, hugged her, and coaxed, "But if you don't marry, we'll make our lives hell. College can wait another year. With me by your side, what are you afraid of?" Kate hesitated for a long time. Finally, a tear fell and she nodded. She dug into her bag, pulled out the acceptance letter, and clutched it tight, unwilling to hand it over. I snatched it from her hand, pulled out a match from my pocket, and right in front of Kate, I burned the acceptance letter. Kate gasped and tried to grab the flaming letter with her bare hands, crying in anguish. I raised my hand and slapped her hard. Kate glared at me, breathing heavily. "You," I chuckled, "don't look at me like that. Everyone has to pay for their sins. You lost your education, but you got a man who truly loves you. Worth it." With that, I packed up my things and left this prison that held me. As I stepped over the threshold, I didn't look back. I told Benton, "Let's get divorced tomorrow morning. If you try anything funny, I'll make your lives hell." The divorce went smoothly. Benton and I agreed not to inform our elderly parents yet, waiting for a better time to break the news. But Benton did make a request. He said he gave me compensation money and destroyed the acceptance letter, as I wanted. All he asked for now was the tape. I didn't agree. Give it to him. No chance. That tape is my leverage. With it, Kate can't go to college. With it, Benton can't talk badly about me, whether I reveal it or not. And when, depends on my mood and their behavior. On the day of the divorce, I asked Benton what his plans were. Would he marry Kate? Benton replied coldly, "None of your damn business." He said he recognized the guy who hit him that night. Mark, a director from New York. He had run an ad in the newspapers for actors. Recently, many actresses were coming to the West City to audition. Benton mocked me for being manipulative, saying I had longed to climb the social ladder and become someone's mistress. He wished me a hard fall after a high climb and hoped I'd get dumped quickly. I was polite. I wished him and Kate a long life together as adulterers and warned him to watch his step, so as not to get struck by lightning. Finally, I reminded him, "Kate seems innocent, but she's cunning." That night, when we were fighting over her, she only cared about her education and didn't care if you got labeled a rapist. I advised him to keep an eye on his little wife, lest she runs off with another man. Benton found my words harsh, swore at me, and left without turning back. I turned and walked in the opposite direction. Nearly 30 years of marriage, 2 lifetimes of tearing each other apart, finally came to a temporary end. From then on, our paths were separate, and we would never see each other again. 1 month later, Mark finished his business inland and took me back to New York. Before we left, we went to a restaurant. He sipped on some tea and read the newspaper. I finished my shrimp dumplings and started writing a letter. Mark glanced over lazily and asked, "What are you writing?" I scribbled quickly, writing to my cousin in the West City, asking her to help look after my parents. Actually, I was writing an anonymous tip-off. In the letter, I reported to the West City Education Bureau about Benton, a teacher at No. 1 high school, having an affair with a female student. I claimed he was immoral and unfit to teach. Let them off easily. Not a chance. I smiled slightly, feeling incredibly pleased. Mark flipped a page of the newspaper and mocked. "Even though you burned Kate's letter, she can still take the college exam next year. And here I thought you had a game plan. Just this. Seems like you and your husband parted on good terms." I dodged. Any good ending comes through a lot of heartbreak. I let him go, just like I let myself go. I wouldn't tell Mark. Poverty brings endless problems to a marriage. A young child and an indifferent husband will drag a woman into a pit. I wouldn't mention that by the end of the year, Benton's mom would have a stroke and become paralyzed. Benton's brother was abroad, and Benton, as the eldest, loved being busy and proud, would be left to care for her. Of course, the smart and selfish Kate might ditch her daughter and bolt from this mess. That's why I needed to write the letter. I had to publicly nail Benton and Kate's affair, bind them together, and never give her a chance to escape or go to college. Debts must be paid. Simple as that. Time to go. Mark folded up the newspaper and put on his sunglasses. Mary, you should change your stage name. The old one's a bit plain. I asked eagerly, what should it be? Mark thought for a moment. Luna. All right. How things would turn out after moving to New York was both unexpected and expected. Mark's film, the one he cast actors for back in China, was called West City Affairs, an art film aimed at winning awards. The lead actress was eventually cast with New York's art film queen. And as for the supporting role, the one with the West City accent, a girl from the West City drama troupe was cast. She was beautiful with excellent skills. I wasn't cast in any role. Mark bluntly told me that the reason he signed me was that he saw some potential in my acting. But in this industry, there are plenty of talented and beautiful actresses. I had no experience, and he didn't have the patience to train me or arrange a role for me. Mark signed a temporary contract with me for 6 months. During this time, he'd get me at least 2 roles, with no promise on their significance. After 6 months, if I didn't meet his standards, we would not work together further. In other words, it all depended on my hard work. After signing, the busy Mark flew off to England. Lily grumbled, Mark's too cold, leaving Luna, a young and pretty girl, in New York alone, with no salary and no place to stay. I quickly said, Mark helped me a lot with the divorce and gave me this chance. He's my benefactor, and I can't ask for more. Of course, Lily, you're my biggest supporter. You gave me a clean set of clothes when I was at my lowest. I'll never forget your kindness. Lily smiled and waved her hand, her round chubby cheeks showing cute dimples. It's nothing, just a small favor. Lily is truly wonderful. She seriously helped me find the right place to rent. At the end, Lily told me that Merry Month would get me into a TV drama crew. She advised me to talk more with locals in New York. My biggest issue now is the language. I thanked her repeatedly for the advice. I thought it over all night and made a 6-month plan for myself. First, I need to solve the survival problem. I don't have much money, so I have to find a job. After thinking it over and over, I decided to take a temp job at a fried chicken fast food place. They pay daily. This would help improve my language skills. And if the film crew has news, I could jump at the chance. Also, no matter how tight money gets, I have to spend some on skincare products to keep up my appearance. And I have to exercise daily to stay in shape. Your face is your calling card. Finally, I absolutely must read a lot. Having a good look but not understanding a script and lacking comprehension skills is deadly for an actor. My daily schedule is packed. It's tiring, but I'm happy. Thinking about my past life, I planned my adopted daughter's study, helped her learn talents, took care of sick elders, and looked after my husband. My role was that of a mother, a dutiful daughter-in-law, and a devoted wife. But I wasn't Mary, I wasn't myself. And now, everything I'm working for is for myself. Now I'm Luna. Merry Month came quickly. Lily got me into a crew. I was going to play a small role, without any lines. Basically an extra. But I got to personally experience the complex makeup of the crew, and watch the actors perform up close. Of course, as an unknown nobody, being ignored, mocked, or discriminated against was expected. But so what? If you can't earn money standing up, then bow down and do it. During this time, I heard tidbits about West City. Benton got caught. After high school started, the West City Education Bureau received an anonymous letter. The letter exposed an inappropriate relationship between teacher Benton from First High and student Kate. The Bureau immediately ordered First High to investigate. It turned out to be true. Soon after, news of my divorce from Benton spread like wildfire. Some even suspected Bella was really the daughter of Benton and Kate. They denied it, only admitting they got involved after the college entrance exam. By that time, he had already divorced Mary, and Kate had graduated as an adult. Does the Education Bureau meddle with love and marriage too? Despite how they put it, the fact that the teacher had a relationship with a former student was damaging. Before, because Benton had gotten some students into top universities, the school was going to make him the head of his grade after school started. But now his reputation was trashed. His rivals and jealous peers all piled on, writing reports and kicking him while he was down. In the end, the Education Bureau and the school discussed and decided to suspend all Benton's duties at first. High. Benton tried everything to salvage his job, even got a few students to testify for him. So he managed to keep his job, but he was moved to a remote rural middle school. Returning to the provincial city was now near impossible. That was like a death sentence to Benton. But it's okay. He had a lovely girl by his side. Rumor had it they got engaged. Good for him. 6 months flew by, and my temporary contract was coming to an end. It was time for Mark to evaluate me. I got up early to get ready. With my study notes from the past 6 months prepared, I anxiously waited. At noon, Lily called. She said Mark just returned from the set and was having a meeting at 2 p.m. At 4 p.m., he'd have a 20-minute coffee break. I quickly tidied up, taking Lily's recommended address to Mark's company. Long time no see, Lily. I rushed up and gave her a big hug. Luna, you've become even more beautiful, Lily said with a smile, looking me over. And more confident. Lily led me to Mark's office. Mark's still in a meeting. It's going to take a while. Do you want tea or coffee while you wait? Afraid of needing the restroom after drinking, I smiled and declined. No thanks, I'm good, Lily. Lily sat down to chat with me. Don't be nervous, you're already amazing. I asked friends from the 3 crews you joined. They all said you learned seriously and have a great personality. I quietly asked, what about Mark? What do you think he's thinking? Lily laughed. Shouldn't be a problem. Compared to the artists the company signed this year, you're a lot better. Don't worry. As we were chatting, the door opened, and came a particularly pretty mixed-race little girl, about 4 years old, with features somewhat like Mark's. Following her was a woman in her 40s, holding a water bottle and backpack. The little girl bounced around looking for someone, asking in a sweet voice, Daddy? Where is he? I looked at Lily in surprise. Lily whispered, this is Mark's daughter, Joey. She's 4 with her nanny, Jenny. I was even more surprised. Mark's married? Lily shook her head and whispered with her hand over her mouth. Joey's mom is British, loves Mark deeply, but in Mark's mind, marriage doesn't exist. They broke up 3 years ago. Now she's married a rich man and is doing well. Taken aback by this surprise tidbit, I nudged Lily with my elbow. How could you tell me such private Mark stuff? Lily chuckled. This isn't private. The gossip mags were full of Mark's love drama a few years back. You just don't follow these things. That's when Joey ran up to me. The little girl leaned her arms on my legs, looking up at me with her big eyes. I thought to myself, she's like a doll dressed in a lace gown. Her skin is flawless, and her features are so delicate, with long, thick eyelashes. I couldn't help myself and gently patted her head. Who are you? Joey smiled sweetly. You're so pretty. Are you Daddy's girlfriend? I was taken aback. Such a young kid knowing about girlfriends. She's either seen it often or heard about it a lot. I was about to say no, I'm not. But Joey suddenly pursed her lips, stood on her tiptoes, and smacked me with her little hand. I hate you, bad woman. Jenny quickly ran over and hugged the little girl, soothing her gently. You can't just hit people like that. Let's go. Joey stuck her tongue out at me and held Jenny's hand as they left. Lily quickly came over to check my face and whispered, Are you okay? Mark's little princess is quite spoiled. Don't mind her. I smiled back at her. It's fine. At that moment, Joey, who had reached the doorway, suddenly ran back. She climbed onto me, playing excitedly with the Mickey Mouse charm on my bag, and ordered, Lily, I want this. Give it to me. Lily looked at me helplessly. Well, give it to her. As she moved to take the charm off my bag, I stopped her. Facing Joey, I bent down. If you want it, you have to ask nicely. Joey widened her innocent eyes and reached out. Then give it to me. No, I shook my head. You were rude earlier, so I'm upset and don't want to give it to you. It was clear Joey wasn't used to being refused, and she immediately got mad. You're mean. I'll tell Daddy to kick you out. I want Mickey Mouse. Give it to me. I held Joey's little arm. Kids who throw tantrums aren't cute and don't get gifts. Joey pouted, but I hate you. I just want to be mean. I kept my patience. First, I'm not your dad's girlfriend. Second, you misunderstood me. Don't you think you should apologize? Joey's tiny face filled with big confusion. Just then, the nanny Jenny came over, not wanting Joey to apologize to someone like me, quickly leading her away. Time to eat. You haven't had your veggies today. Your dad won't be happy if he knows. But Joey flung away from Jenny, snuggling back to me. Since you're not Daddy's girlfriend, I can't hit you. Sorry. She touched the Mickey Mouse charm. Can I have it? I chuckled. If you eat your vegetables well, I'll give it to you as a reward. Joey perked up and urged Jenny. I want to eat now. Jenny took a lunchbox from her bag, half kneeling to feed Joey. But Joey pointed at me. I want this pretty lady to feed me. I placed the box on the chair next to her, telling the little girl, You're 4 now. Eat by yourself. Joey thought for a moment and grabbed the kid's fork, poking a vegetable piece, eating while glancing at me. I nodded encouragingly, take big bites. Jenny was amazed. Wow, I've never seen Joey this obedient. Miss, you're really something. I smiled. It's nothing, just some experience from raising kids before. After Joey finished eating, I rewarded her with the Mickey Mouse charm. I promised that if she kept eating her veggies well, I'd give her a Donald Duck charm next time. Joey was thrilled, hopping around, asking me to play games with her. After a bit, she grew tired, and Jenny needed to take her back. Joey cried and refused to leave, throwing a tantrum, insisting on finding Daddy. I knew the little girl was missing her father. Lily noticed too and hesitated, but Mark's in a meeting and later a script reading. Who knows when it'll end? If Joey starts bothering him now, he'll be mad. I thought for a moment, waved to Joey. How about I tell you a story? Joey's little nose was red from crying. What stories can you tell? I gently replied, I know lots. Cinderella, The Little Mermaid. Joey snuggled into my arms, spreading her arms, wanting me to hold her. I picked her up just like I did with Bella many years ago, holding her and telling her stories while softly patting her arm. Joey's little hand naturally rested on my chest, sucking her thumb, her eyes locked on mine. Slowly, she drifted off to sleep. Later, when Jenny tried to take her, Joey clung to me crying. It's fine. I'll hold her. Time ticked by. Around 20 minutes later, the door opened from the outside. Mark walked in. We hadn't seen each other for 6 months. He looked slimmer, with his hair cut short, even more handsome. Our eyes met, and he paused for a couple of seconds, then quickly walked over to take the child from my arms. Joey, still sleepy, clung to my neck, mumbling, Mommy hug. I froze looking at Mark. His eyes were cold as he harshly took Joey away, handing her to Jenny, speaking sternly, Who allowed you to bring her to the office? Jenny quickly apologized. I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again. After Jenny left with Joey, Mark slowly turned, looking at me coldly. Luna, what are you trying to pull? Seeing Mark suddenly change and get angry, I figured Joey calling me mommy might have upset him. He probably thought I was leading the child to say something. Hurriedly, I explained earlier. Mark cut me off. Are you messing with my daughter? Lily, sensing the tension, quickly tried to explain on my behalf. Mark, I was there the whole time. Luna really didn't say anything wrong to Joey. Shut up. Mark snapped at Lily, pointing at me. Don't think I don't know what you're after. Your temporary contract is up. You want to renew, stay in New York, hit it big, become a star, get famous. And now you're using my daughter. Tears pricked my eyes. I didn't. Mark gave me a piercing look. Why doesn't she call anyone else mommy, but just you? Luna, I don't know what kind of person you are. Back then, you knelt down in the street begging for a chance to interview with me. Later, I had someone check in West City. Your ex-husband Benton was ruined by an anonymous letter, and now he's stuck in the countryside. Are you gonna tell me you didn't write that letter? On the day you returned to New York, I saw you writing the letter with my own eyes. Lily stepped in. Mark, Luna's marital drama is her own business. It has nothing to do with anyone else, and definitely nothing to do with today. You're definitely misunderstanding here. Mark got even angrier. I told you to shut up. Can't you understand that? He turned to me. Luna, listen up. A woman like you, who'll do anything to get ahead, I won't sign you. And no entertainment company in New York would sign you either. Want to be famous? Sure, go shoot some adult films. Take advantage while you're young, because in a few years, no one's gonna watch your worn-out body. My fists clenched. My nails dug deep into my palms. Mark, don't you think that's a bit excessive? Mark pointed to the door. Get out. It felt like I was slapped from a distance. I wanted to explain, to say just a couple more words. But then Mark picked up the phone, his voice cold. "Security, come up for a moment." I knew he was angry. He had already judged my character without giving me a chance to explain. I wiped away my tears and bowed deeply. "You've always been my benefactor." I turned to leave. As I was walking out, I looked back and said, "Spend more time with your daughter. Look at what she's turned into." It started to rain. The wind carried the raindrops, hitting my skin, feeling cold. I sat on the garden steps, watching the endless stream of cars and people. My heart felt hollow. This was a bustling city filled with dreams, yet the reality of waking from those dreams was harsh. 6 months ago, I left with hope, departing from here. Now the ship has sunk. Suddenly, an umbrella appeared overhead. It was Lily. She sat beside me, concerned. "Luna, are you okay?" I couldn't hold it in anymore, tears streaming down as I hugged her tightly, crying. Lily rubbed my back. "Don't blame Mark. Something he valued fell through today, and he's upset. Plus, he's really sensitive about anything related to Joey. His daughter means everything." I sobbed. "But I really didn't intend to use Joey." I know. Lily tooted. It was definitely wrong for Mark to act like that. But he's got a bad temper. Even if he knows he's wrong, he won't apologize. "Luna, what are your plans now?" Hearing Lily's words, I knew where I stood. Mark had turned his back on me completely. There's no way he'd give me another chance. "I don't know." I dropped my head, hugging myself. Since he said that, I guess I'm out of opportunities in the New York film scene. Lily couldn't really deny it inside. I forced a smile, tears still falling. "Thanks, Lily. You've always looked out for me. I wanted to repay you. Looks like that's not happening now." Lily wrapped her arm around me. "Meeting you was meant to be. Don't worry about thanking me. I admire you, decisive and clear about what you like and dislike. I believe whatever you do next, you'll succeed." After chatting with Lily for a bit, she had to head back for work, so we said goodbye. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. I had to rethink my next steps. In the days following, I tried getting roles in different productions, looking for any small parts. But no one would take me. I quickly realized Mark meant what he said. With rent due soon and my funds drying up, I had to keep doing part-time gigs. I once worked passionately, communicating with others because I had a goal. Now though, I was exhausted, lacking motivation for anything. I even thought about leaving New York. But to go back home with nothing to show for my efforts? I couldn't accept that. I thought, as big of a director as Mark is, he's probably just venting. He won't hold a grudge against someone as small and insignificant as me. If I waited out a month or two, he might cool off and forget about me. Then I can start looking for work again in the industry. With that thought, I felt a bit better and less dejected. I got back to exercising, reading, and doing my part-time gigs, sticking to my old routine. Then, on the 10th day after Mark yelled at me, Lily found me. She seemed thrilled, holding out her hand. "Luna, Mark wants to sign a long-term contract with you. Are you interested?" Hearing this out of the blue, I froze. Didn't he hate me? Lily shrugged. "Who knows with him? He's unpredictable." Later, Lily explained. Once Mark calmed down, she found the right moment to hand him notes I had been compiling over the past few months. Mark was his usual stubborn self, demanding Lily throw them away. But Lily snapped back. "You brought a young girl all the way to New York and haven't been around for months. Now you show up just to yell at her and send her away without reason. If you want to throw the notes, you do it. I'm not involved." Lily said she caught Mark sneaking a peek at my work. Meanwhile, Joey was constantly bugging Mark about hearing stories from the pretty lady. She liked playing with me. It was an afternoon after the rain had cleared. Mark called Lily and Jenny over and listened to everything they had to say about what happened that day in the office. After a long silence, he made up his mind. Lily asked me, "Mark wants a 5-year contract with you. Are you up for it?" I nodded eagerly. "I'd love to. Really love to." I officially signed with Mark's entertainment company. Getting here wasn't easy. I moved out of the cramped old place and into a better apartment that the company got for me. No more public showers. I finally had my own bathroom. Shortly after the contract, Lily called saying Joey missed me, wanted me to play with her. She asked if I wanted to visit. I didn't hesitate for a second. Of course I was up for it. Lily drove me to the Liu family villa. As soon as I stepped out, Joey ran up to me. The little girl hugged my leg, whining, "Pretty lady, did you bring me a gift?" I knelt down and patted her little head. "Of course. Have you been eating your veggies, Joey?" Joey nodded enthusiastically, her tiny voice replying, "Not just veggies. I drink milk every day too." "That's great." I pulled a Donald Duck plush out of my bag. Joey's eyes sparkled and she grabbed it, excited. "Wow, thanks, Auntie." I glanced around, whispering to Jenny beside me, "Is Mark home?" Jenny smiled. "He's in his study. Seems like he's working on a script." I just hummed in response. I spent half the day playing with Joey, cooked for her, and watched her take a nap. I was supposed to leave after that, but after thinking it over, I got up the nerve to ask Jenny to make some coffee for me. I took it and knocked on the study door. A cool voice from Mark came from inside. "Come in." My heart was pounding, and my palms were sweaty. As soon as I walked in, a faint smell of smoke and cologne hit me. The study was big, filled with shelves of classic and modern books, popular novels, and loads of records and vinyls. Mark sat behind the desk in casual clothes and gold-rimmed glasses. His bangs slightly covered the edge of his eyebrows, making him look refined and classy. I had to admit, he's a charming and handsome guy, but man, does he have a temper. He was focused, sketching out storyboard panels for a movie. His drawing skills were amazing. "Still here?" Mark asked without looking up. I snapped out of it, wanting to hand him the coffee, but afraid it'd spill on his drafts. My, Mark lifted his gaze and chuckled. "You were all righteous and lecturing me the other day, and now you're all awkward like an old lady." I was taken aback. "When did I ever lecture you?" "I wouldn't dare." Mark pointed at the table, motioning for me to set down the coffee. Who slammed the door and chewed me out for not spending enough time with my daughter. I shook my head and smiled. He really called that a lecture? After putting the coffee down, I stood just a bit away, caught in indecision. "Anything else?" Mark asked, taking a sip. I bowed formally. "Thank you for giving me another chance." Mark waved his hand. "Lily thinks you have potential. Thank her." That was the end of the conversation. He went back to his drawing while I stood there awkward. "If you have more to say it now." Mark lit a cigarette. I always get tense around him. After a moment, I said Lily suggested I join an action film crew next month for a small part. But I feel I'm still lacking in experience. I want to attend acting classes. Mark scoffed. "You think playing with Joey for half a day earns you the right to make demands?" I mustered up courage. "It's not about Joey. Our contract states the company provides training for artists. Plus, you sign me personally. If I mess up, it's your name on the line. And if I succeed, I'll be able to earn money for you quicker." Mark chuckled dismissively. "You're a long way from making money. All right, you can go." I started to protest, but Mark frowned out. "Okay, I admit I'm a bit scared of him. Not getting what I wanted, there was nothing left for me. And I walked out feeling dejected. Back home, I worked out for over an hour to calm down after being rejected. Just after my evening shower and face mask, Lily called. "Luna, good news. Mark got you a spot in a TV station's acting training program. Do you know how hard it is to get into that acting class? They only take their own artists." Mark talked things over with the station's top brass for half a day, and he promised them the lead role in his next movie, Lily exclaimed. I was too shocked to process it all at first. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Lily asked. Covering my wildly beating heart, I said, "I asked him today, and he turned me down. I thought he wouldn't bother with it." Lily laughed. "He's got a sharp tongue but a soft heart. He felt guilty about yelling at you last time, but he's too proud to admit it." "Congratulations, Luna." Tears filled my eyes. "Thanks, Lily. I'll make the most of this chance." Soon, I joined the TV station's acting class as a new student. Everyone there was super talented. A few names were familiar. They were future movie stars. The teachers were experienced actors, and their lessons were engaging. I could feel myself getting a deeper understanding of acting. During my time in the class, I learned a lot, expanded my network, and got to play small roles and do commercials. A big-time producer offered me a part in a major martial arts drama. It was a great gig with an amazing team, and I would have a decent role. I wanted in, but it wasn't up to me. I needed the company and Mark's approval. Mark said the TV show's timeline was too lengthy, and that TV and movie work were totally different. He advised against it. I got his point. Being away too long meant I couldn't be with Joey as often. Joey was getting more attached to me and wanted me, not the nanny, to take her to school. She'd taken to seeing me as her mom, since she never really knew her birth mother. Poor thing. I often visited Mark's home and saw him frequently. Sometimes when he had free time, he gave me tips, teaching me a lot. It was a rare opportunity and I truly valued it. Even if he had a grumpy face most of the time, our relationship was less tense than before. Around Christmas, Mark was on break, and Joey wanted us to take her to the amusement park. Kids sure are limitless with their energy. That night, Joey wasn't tired at all, and insisted the three of us play eagle-catching chicks. I was the hen, Joey clinging to my clothes as we avoided Mark the eagle. "Daddy, try to catch me." Joey giggled, sweating from all the fun. Mark put on a fierce face. "Here comes the eagle." I spread my arms, Joey dodged. Mark came running over, tackling us both gently. "Got you." He tickled Joey, who rolled on the soft carpet laughing. "Luna, mommy, help." I was stunned, remembering the office incident 6 months ago when Joey sleepily called me mom. Mark had been furious then, tearing into me. Something tightened in my chest, so I quickly glanced at Mark. But he showed no emotion, still teasing Joey. He even tapped my forehead lightly, saying, "This hen is such a dunce," letting the eagle snatch the chick. I snapped back to the moment, pretending to rescue Joey. The three of us laughed, and played until late when Joey needed to sleep. I gave her a bath, and read her a story until she drifted off. Downstairs, I found Mark sitting by the fireplace, drinking wine and reading. As before, I left quietly. Who would have thought? He stopped me. "Not gonna have a drink?" I walked over and sat down across from Mark. He poured me a glass of red wine. "Try this, it's the best from my friend's wine cellar." I nodded and took a big gulp. It tasted awful. Seeing my grimace, Mark raised an eyebrow. "Don't like it?" I nodded honestly. A pig like me can't appreciate this fancy stuff. I still prefer some good old Chinese liquor. Mark shook his head with a smile. "Next time, I'll get you some." The first floor was dimly lit, with only a small lamp on, and the flickering fire from the fireplace highlighted his deep and handsome features. He wore a casual white outfit, with only 2 buttons done, showing off his solid chest. He leaned in then, like a mountain looming over me. I got so nervous my mouth went dry, and I leaned back to avoid him. Mark chuckled softly, brushing my hair. "You had a sequin in your hair." He sat back and took a sip of wine. My heart was racing, and the fire in the fireplace was making me uncomfortable. I hadn't even drunk that much, but I felt like I was getting tipsy. "Joey really likes you." Mark swirled the wine in his glass. "Ever since you showed up, she's been a lot happier. She's even dropped some of her bad habits and little tantrums." "Thank you, Luna." I waved my hand. "It's nothing, I really like Joey too." Mark clinked his glass with mine. "What I said about you before was too much, I'm sorry." I pretended to clean my ear. "Oh, Lily said you're as stubborn as a rock and never apologize." "Did I hear you right?" Mark raised his hand to grab the phone on the table. "Lily dares to badmouth me? I'll dock her pay." I quickly grabbed his hand. No, if you're punishing someone, punish me." A smile tugged at the corner of his lips, his eyes landing on my hand. I quickly let go, clenching my hand into a fist behind my back. The atmosphere was a bit like a lit sparkler, quietly popping with tiny sparks. Mark tucked my loose hair behind my ear, his voice warm. "Over the past 6 months, I've turned down 3 scripts for you. All those shows were hits. Are you mad?" I pulled back a little, feeling a bit down but forced a light smile. "You've been in this industry long enough to know what's good for me and what's not." "That's good." Mark smiled faintly. I glanced at my watch. "I need to get going." Mark said naturally, "It's pretty late. It's not safe for you to go alone. Why not stay the night?" I laughed. "It's fine, I drove, won't take long to get home." Not long after Christmas, Lily excitedly told me that the company secured a great script for me, a movie by well-known screenwriter Jack. I knew in my heart this was a resource handed to me by Mark. Or rather, a thank you for being there for his daughter. Before filming started, Mark went over the role with me. He assured me not to feel pressured. I was just the 3rd female lead. The spotlight was on the lead actress and second lead. I'd reviewed the script. All my scenes, at most, would take a month to film. Enough time to still be there for Joey. Before heading out, Joey and I pinky promised that I wouldn't abandon her, and that I'd be back soon. I joined the film crew quickly. The atmosphere on set was pretty good. The leading actress was accomplished in movies, TV, and music, and was down to earth. The leading actor had just won the Best Newcomer award, with a bright future ahead. Throughout filming, I learned a lot and had fun doing it. The only downside was the second lead, Lucy. She was a real piece of work, seemingly out to get me. In one slapping scene, she kept halting the takes, and by midday my face swelled from all the slaps. "Sorry, Luna." Lucy looked all innocent, handing me an ice pack. "It's my first time acting. I'm inexperienced." "Don't be mad, Luna." I swallowed my frustration. Landing a second lead right off the bat meant she had major connections. My face burned from pain, but I forced a smile. "It's okay, as long as the final result is good. I'm fine with as many takes as needed." Lucy glanced at me condescendingly but smiled sweetly. "It's great you think that way." After she left, I quietly asked Lily beside me, "What's her story?" "I just know she competed in last year's Miss New York, but only made it to the top 10. Lily picked up the makeup powder, tidying up my makeup while whispering angrily, "She left a handprint. That woman is ruthless." She carefully closed the dressing room door and whispered to me, "She's got a rich boyfriend, otherwise with her stiff acting, she wouldn't even be good enough for a bit role." "I see." I gently touched my aching cheek. "But I'm not after her sugar daddy. Why target me from the start?" Lily snickered. "She's one of Mark's exes among many. It's been making the rounds how Mark traded resources to get you into the TV station's acting class. This woman is vicious. She tried poking holes in condoms to use pregnancy as leverage, but Mark caught on and dumped her. Now she thinks you're Mark's new favorite and is jealous, so she's messing with you." "I see." I'd heard from Lily that Mark was a playboy, but this was my first glimpse. Seems his exes are everywhere. That afternoon, I only had one scene left. After finishing, I was about to leave, but Lucy started acting up again. "My diamond ring is missing." Lucy threw a fit, saying her pink diamond, just purchased, was invaluable and stolen by someone. She ordered the director to lock down the set. No one was allowed to leave, and her assistant to search everyone's bags. The director was speechless, but since Lucy's sponsor was the investor, he couldn't afford to offend her, so he let the diva have her way. After endless searching, we were the only ones left, the leads and me unsearched. It was clear, I was the target again. "Luna, you don't mind if I search your bag, right?" Lucy crossed her arms, smiling with bright red lips. I knew someone tampered with my bag. I coldly replied, "I do mind. I wasn't going to be a pushover anymore. You have no right to search my things. I'll only let the police do it." Lucy sneered, rolling her eyes. "Luna, refusing a search, are you guilty of something?" As she spoke, she ordered her assistants to snatch mine and Lily's bags. I couldn't let her. I urgently looked to the director for help. "Director, are you just going to stand by?" The director pretended to check the camera, turning away. With a ripping sound, my bag was taken and torn open, spilling makeup and notebooks on the floor, including a velvet jewelry box I'd never seen before. Lucy screamed, "My diamond ring." She got all mad and slapped me out of nowhere, saying, "Caught red-handed. What do you have to say for yourself?" Lily jumped in to defend me. "Stop accusing her." Luna didn't take it. Lucy sneered, "Country bumpkin from a small place. Never seen expensive jewelry, got greedy and handsy. Who knows what else she could do." Lily got angry and grabbed Lucy's collar. "Watch your mouth." Lucy's bodyguards moved in, ready to take on Lily. "Everyone stop." I pulled Lily behind me and faced Lucy. "Go ahead, call the police. Let them check the fingerprints on the ring, and it'll clear it all up." Panic flashed in Lucy's eyes for a moment. She snorted, "No need to waste police resources on such a small thing. Luna, you kneel and apologize." "That's not happening." I stood firm, my reputation's at stake. "I have to report this to the police." I looked at the director. "Can you help call the police?" The director just tried to smooth things over. "Is it really that big of a deal?" "Luna, Just apologize to Lucy, and it'll be over. I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I apologize? The director frowned. Should everyone just stand around and waste time? Apologize, shaking with anger. I was ready to argue back. Suddenly, a smooth male voice came from up front. I saw it. An hour ago, Lucy's assistant sneaked into Luna's dressing room while she was filming. I turned to see who it was. The man speaking was handsome and dignified. It was Chris, the leading man in the film. Chris nodded and smiled at me. Hands in pockets. I support calling the police. Let them check the fingerprints. The atmosphere suddenly tensed up, like a ticking time bomb on set. Lucy turned on Chris. It's none of your business, get out of here. Chris leaned lazily against the wall. I can't just stand by and watch. Needed to meddle a little. Just then, the cameraman came in and whispered something to the director. The director gave me a meaningful look, stood up and said, "All right, no more fussing. We have surveillance cameras on set. It's all clearly recorded." The director turned to Lucy, "Ma'am, please keep an eye on your belongings and people next time. Don't just leave them around." His point was clear. Everyone on set got it. Lucy's face flushed with embarrassment, but she still wanted to make a fuss. Fed up, the director snapped, "Are we filming or not? If not, get out." Lucy froze, tears welling up, then snapped, "You'll regret this." With that, she ran out. I let out a sigh of relief. This drama ended without a hitch. The assistant director whispered something, and the director's attitude shifted. "Guess I've got someone looking out for me." I smiled. It must be him. Chris walked over to me. "Thanks a lot just now," I quickly thanked him. Chris waved it off casually. "No problem, happy to help." I was puzzled. "Why were you helping me though?" Chris chuckled. "I graduated from the acting class, just 2 years ahead of you. So I guess I'm your senior." I offered my hand. "Thanks then, senior." He shook my hand. "Just saying thanks isn't enough. How about giving me a chance to treat you to a meal?" I agreed happily. Chris had a night shoot, so we planned to grab a meal in a few days. After leaving the set, from a distance I saw Mark's car. I signaled to Lily and quickly walked over, getting into the front passenger seat. "Figured it was you." I smiled at Mark, but it tugged on my injuries from the slap. "When do you get here?" Mark leaned in, gently brushing my cheek with his thumb. "Been here since noon." "That woman hit you hard, didn't she?" I rolled my eyes. "All because of you, how dare you ask?" Mark raised an eyebrow. "Oh," Lily blabbed. "Her mouth should be sewn shut next time." "Don't blame Lily. Without her, I wouldn't have known how I offended anyone." I sat up straight. "Lily said Lucy has someone backing her. Aren't you worried you might offend them by getting the director to do that?" "Concerned for me?" Mark leaned back in his seat, and suddenly I understood. "By the way," Mark sneered at me, "I saw you and Chris chatting happily. What was that about?" I blurted out. "Turns out he went to the same acting class. He's like my senior now. He's good looking, a nice guy, and a great actor. He asked me out to eat earlier too." Mark's eyes darkened as he twirled a strand of my hair, smiling. "Are you going?" My sixth sense kicked in. If I said yes, Mark would definitely get mad. "No." I denied it without hesitation. "My career's just starting, can't afford any scandals." Mark raised an eyebrow. "Smart move." Watching him, I countered. "A producer asked me to star in a racy movie. Promised no nudity. Said those films are hits and would boost my fame. Should I do it?" Mark lifted my chin with his finger. "Absolutely not." Then he kissed me. I instinctively tried to retreat, but then leaned in instead. I ended up with Mark. He was as forceful in bed as he was in his dealings. For 3 days straight, we didn't leave the bedroom. During filming, Mark dropped by whenever he could. Though Mark never publicly acknowledged it, everyone on set assumed we were a couple. Chris went days without speaking to me, but eventually came to me straightforwardly. "I was thinking of asking you out, but guess you're already taken." He hesitated, but couldn't hold back from hinting. Mark's good-looking and talented. Lots of actresses fancy him. I thanked him and assured him I was aware. Thanks to Paul and Mark, the screenwriter revised the script, giving me way more scenes. During editing, Lucy's scenes were all cut out. I became the true second lead. When the promo came out, clips of Lucy slapping me and falsely accusing me surfaced too. Suddenly, scandals about Lucy exploded everywhere. Some tabloids blatantly publish photos of her mingling at parties in revealing outfits. Lucy got blacklisted. She was buried under a wave of public disdain, while I, the victim, stepped into the limelight, gaining sympathy and attention. Never heard about Lucy again. Some say she cracked under the pressure, losing her mind. Others say Paul dealt with her. My first movie with a supporting female lead role came out at the end of the year, and it got rave reviews. My reputation soared, and I received several endorsement deals and acting offers. Many journalists wrote articles praising my acting skills, but at the same time, there were quite a few rivals and media digging up dirt on me. Honestly, it's just about relationships between guys and girls. Sometimes it gets annoying, but even negative fame is still fame. I take it all. Things are going smoothly with Mark, and we often take Joey out to have fun. Sometimes I have this illusion that we're like a little family of 3. I've even fantasized that one day he'd propose to me. I'd be wearing a lovely wedding dress, walking into the chapel, and he'd place a ring on my finger. Every time Lily sees my dreamy look and listens to my fantasies, she just shakes her head speechlessly. Love makes women lose their IQ, right? Being friends for so long, she always speaks her mind to me. Luna, when it comes to dating, just keep it fun and casual. Don't get too emotional. Mark's flirty eyes are deceiving. Sure, he's good to you now, but he was good to all his exes too. He's a talented but carefree guy, never sticking to one woman. Don't give your heart away, or you'll end up losing everything. I laugh and scold her. Can't you wish me some good luck? Mark truly cares for me. Mid-next year, I graduated from my acting class. Not long after, I got more good news. I was nominated for the Golden Deer Award for Best Supporting Actress. This award is super prestigious, known as the highest recognition in domestic films. I didn't dare dream that as a newbie, I could actually win. I was just heading there to gain some experience, wearing a high-end dress, looking all dolled up, taking a few nice photos, and clapping along with everyone. When the presenter announced my name, I didn't react at first until Chris sitting next to me nudged me with a smile, waking me up. It seemed I had really won. Though the award stage wasn't high, it felt like it took forever to reach. When I received the trophy from the presenter, the cold touch assured me it was real. I never dared to think I could be this lucky to receive such an honor. Besides my team and the director, I was most grateful to Mark. The applause and flowers felt like stepping on clouds. It was surreal and wonderful. After the award ceremony, I couldn't wait to call Mark. But after several attempts, I couldn't reach him. Lily said that Mark was busy filming out of town, probably just occupied. I understood. I immediately called my parents next. When they first heard about my divorce from Benton, they were furious, calling me reckless for running away with a stranger to New York, clueless about getting swindled. They insisted I reconcile with Benton, and even planned to fly to New York to drag me back home. I told them it was impossible. They threatened to disown me, then softened saying Mom had a stroke because of me, urging me to come back soon. I knew they were actually worried about me, but I couldn't turn back. I stood my ground and stayed in New York. At first, they kept scolding me, but after I repeatedly sent money home, the scolding lessened. When my photos appeared in newspapers and on TV, they finally believed I really made it as a star and started advising me to take care of myself and not work too hard. Now knowing I'd won an award, they no longer stopped me from pursuing my dreams. Everything was moving in a good direction. I believed I'd be very happy. After the celebration party, I couldn't wait to get home. Since Mark was busy, I'd celebrate with Joey instead. But when I got back, I saw Mark's male assistant's car parked outside. He stopped me, looking a bit awkward. Miss Joey went to her uncle's place. I looked at the lit-up villa and instantly understood. I told the assistant, "Don't tell Mark I was here." In my evening gown, holding a glass of red wine, I sat in my car all night. The next morning, a stunning girl with a perfect figure walked out of the villa. Young, fresh, and dangerously alluring. Mark's assistant drove her away. I hesitated, struggled, raged, and finally calmed down. An hour later, I fixed my makeup and hair, gracefully got out of the car, and walked into the villa holding my wine and trophy. Mark, wearing a robe, was sitting at the dining table sipping coffee, his collar slightly open, revealing fresh nail scratches on his chest. "You're back." Mark opened his arms and came over. "Congratulations. My best supporting actress." I hugged him with a smile. Best supporting actress, how ironic it sounded. I should have been celebrating with you first. I held back tears, forcing myself not to notice the woman's perfume on him, looking up at him, saying the crew had to throw a party, so I had to leave you behind first. Mark looked me up and down, full of admiration. "Perfect. I watched the live broadcast last night. My Luna looked stunning. We both knew what happened last night, but neither of us mentioned it." Mark opened the wine, pouring us each a glass. He brushed my nose with his fingers. "Now the suitors behind my Luna are countless." I raised my glass, arching an eyebrow. "Not as many as the ones for our great director." We drank, saying nothing. Mark finally broke the silence. "Luna, I like you. But I was born in the UK, grew up in the US, and returned to New York only as an adult. My way of living and thinking is more Western. I believe in open relationships." "What do you mean?" My heart sank. Mark sipped his wine. "It means while we're together, we can also date other people without interfering with each other. Can you accept that?" I told Lily what he said. Lily erupted. "I knew he was a flirt, but I didn't know he'd go this far, talking about open relationships." I couldn't stop crying. "Keep scolding, help me feel better." Lily pulled out a tissue, wiping my tears, scolding. "I warned you, didn't I? It's okay to date, but don't give your heart away. Now see what happened." I cried, craning my neck to avoid tears falling on my dress. Lily laughed at my silly look. "So, what are you going to do? Accept his proposal?" I wore a pained expression. "What choice do I have?" Lily put her hands on her hips. "Then you should find a man too. You're the best supporting actress, super popular right now. Tons of good-looking guys are after you. Make Mark that jerk annoyed." "No way," I shook my head. Lily looked at me frustrated. "You dealt with your ex-husband so decisively. Why are you so indecisive now?" I wiped away tears and gave a bitter smile. "Mark can have a new girlfriend, but I can't. I need him for my career and future. That's more important to me than love or desire. If I want something, I have to give something up. It's a price I have to accept. I have to wait for him to suggest breaking up. I can't betray him. I can't assume Mark will be forgiving. I definitely can't assume he's serious about this open relationship. I can't risk it." Lily sighed. "So what is this, an aware dissent?" I hugged her. "Let's just have a drink, sister." Lily's all in. "Drink until we drop." Probably out of guilt or maybe just to make up for it. A little while later, Mark gave me a designer bag and got me a lot of gigs. I got busy again, mostly doing movies, with a few TV roles here and there. It was a slow journey, but a steady one. I made a bunch of money, bought a big house in New York, and had my parents move in. Besides acting, I even tried releasing an album. It got so-so reactions. After completing a project, I'd give myself a break. Go back to school, travel abroad. Joey was always around. This was part of an unspoken agreement between me and Mark. We never signed anything about this, but it was just understood. I played a mother figure to Joey during her early years. Funny enough, Joey rarely visited her dad on set, but she'd always cling to me. Joey once said to me, "Dad's such a jerk, Luna, you should leave him." I can't say I hadn't thought about it, but I know how tricky the entertainment world is. And it's incredibly hard for a woman with no power or connections. So, I chose to stick with being Mark's fiancée. In fact, we got along well under his open relationship suggestion. Open on his side. Whenever he'd get tired of a girlfriend, I'd step in as the fiancé and handle the mess. After the first 5-year contract ended, Mark and I signed up for another 5 years. During the second contract, I kept the same pace and goals. Joey grew up and I took on more work. I started investing, besides acting in TV and movies. I was aware that after the millennium, the mainland film and TV industry would boom. So I planned to shift my work focus there eventually. While I was busy hustling, Mark slowed down. Most noticeably, he didn't change girlfriends as often. 2 years passed without a new one. His reputation was still solid, though sometimes people whispered he was running out of steam. He crafted a movie just for me, aiming for awards. I was the female lead, with Chris as the male lead. At the Golden Deer Awards though, both Chris and I missed out. But Mark won Best Director. What's even better, the film won some international awards too. My recognition shot up. During an interview later, they asked Chris and me about Mark. Jokingly, we both said, "Mark, you owe us each a movie." The reporters teased Mark. "Luna and Chris are counting on you for their awards. Can you deliver, Mark?" Mark confidently replied, "Of course I can." The reporter laughed and asked, "Words are cheap. How do you prove it?" Mark looked at me. "I'll marry Luna and become sworn brothers with Chris. Then we'll be family. Of course you can count on me." He burst out laughing. "Just kidding." Before I knew it, my second 5-year contract with Mark was nearing the end. He decided to cook us a lavish meal at home, placing red roses in the center of the table. They are my favorite. Mark was in the kitchen cooking. I leaned on the table, watching him move around. He's 12 years older than me. Time had crept up on him, showing in the corners of his eyes. But honestly, he looked even more handsome with age. "What are you looking at?" Mark placed the baked lobster on the table, smiling. "At you." I rested my chin on my hand. "You're wearing a white shirt and jeans today. Same as the first time we met." Mark shook his head, smiling. "Yeah, I was about to leave West Side that day when this young girl rushed in yelling, 'Mark, wait!' She accidentally knocked over a trash cart, got all dirty and gross, yet clung to my arm. I was so annoyed back then, but her eyes were so dark and bright, I couldn't help looking. And look where we are years later, still can't forget." I ate a slice of lemon from my glass. "Wow, that's sour." Mark chuckled, poured himself a glass of wine, poured me some juice. "Joey called the other day, said she saw you throwing up. Even had an assistant buy a pregnancy test." He looked at me seriously. "Is Joey going to have a brother or sister?" I grabbed his wine and took a big gulp. "Joey's way too nosy. I'm not pregnant." The wine left a slight bitterness. I was pregnant, but I secretly took care of it. A flash of pain crossed Mark's eyes. He touched my shoulder, smiling gently. "Funny, I never liked kids back then. But now I want our home to be full of life. Luna, let's go to Iceland for a vacation. You've always wanted to see the Northern Lights." I agreed. "Sure, I'll have Lily check the schedule." Mark paused, forced a smile. "Lily's really talented, isn't she? These past years she's gone solo with her entertainment company, doing pretty well. I heard she signed some promising kids." "Yeah." I nodded, added some veggies to my plate and ate. Honestly, I knew that Mark had another reason for this dinner. He wanted to talk about renewing my contract. My reputation and business value are pretty high right now. He didn't say it directly, so I just pretended not to understand. "Luna," Mark sat across from me. "I'll be straightforward. Our contract is about to end. What are your plans?" I put down my chopsticks. "I've been so busy lately that I forgot to tell you. I won't be renewing. I'm planning to sign with Lily's company." Mark looked down a bit sad and smiled. "You're already a big shot, managing everything yourself. Why sign with a company?" I smiled softly. "Oh, I'm signing with Lily, not completely. It's more to support her, enhance her business stature. She's helped me so much over the years. This is just to pay her back." "That's great," Mark said. He took a big gulp of his drink and stared at me. "I want to marry you." "That's real." "I've loved you all these years." "That's real too." There was a long silence. I gently touched a rose, red like fire. "Remember when I won Best Supporting Actress? The night sky was beautiful that night. I watched it all night long." Mark lowered his head. I couldn't see his face, didn't know his expression. Was it sadness? Regret? Reluctance? It didn't matter anymore. "Mark, I'm leaving." I got up to go. As I reached the door, Mark suddenly called out to me. "Luna, you've always been a clear-headed woman. Always knew what you wanted. All these years, did you ever love me?" I didn't turn back. Of course I did. 2 months later, because of a new movie, I had to stay in West City for about 2 weeks. Joey said she'd never been to West City and insisted on coming along. She wanted to see where I grew up and try all the famous local snacks. 11 years since I've been back, West City has changed a lot. When I got off the plane, a crowd of fans came rushing to greet me. I smiled, took pictures with them, signed autographs. In a daze, I thought I saw a familiar face in the crowd. It was gone in a flash. and I couldn't see it again when I looked back. Finally, I got through the crowd and rode to the hotel. Joey sprawled lazily on the bed as soon as we got to the room, pouting. I never want to travel with a big star again. My feet are about to break from all the stomping. 11 years have passed. Joey is now 15, taller than me and beautiful just like her dad. Right then, I heard a cool male voice at the door. I told you not to tag along and be a third wheel, but you followed anyway. The guy talking is a handsome British guy, tall and fit, with abs to admire. Don't ask why I know that, he's my new boyfriend. His name's Dylan, and technically he's Joey's uncle, a young uncle with a big role to play. 2 months ago, I went with Joey to visit her mom in England, and that's when I met Dylan. He fell for me at first sight, got my number that night, asked me out for dinner. We got together pretty quickly. Everything felt right, super joyful. But Joey wasn't happy about Dylan. She thought he was the reason her dad couldn't win me back. Dylan dragged the luggage in with one hand, then lightly kicked Joey's foot. I got you a ticket back to New York. Your dad's heartbroken. Now he's rushing into a marriage with a model he barely knows. It's ridiculous. Wouldn't it be smart to stop him? What if your stepmom has a kid and starts fighting over the family stuff? If you don't speak, no one will think you're mute. Joey got off the bed, annoyed, arguing with Dylan. If it weren't for you, Luna would already be my mom. Dylan hugged me, kissed me hard on the cheek. She's in her early 30s. You can't call her mom, and she won't dare to accept it. Remember, Luna ain't your mom, she's your auntie. I shook my head and smiled. Let them argue. It's beyond my control. Really beyond it. Just then, my assistant knocked on the door and came in. Hey, there's a man named Benton downstairs. He brought his daughter, says he's your relative, and wants to see you. My heart skipped a beat. Benton? It's been ages since I saw him. Invite him up. And get the security too. Before Benton and his daughter came in, security had already checked them thoroughly, ensuring they weren't hiding any knives, poison, or eavesdropping devices. After all these years, I saw them again. Benton in his 30s looked much older. He had a buzz cut, wore thick glasses like the bottoms of beer bottles, gained some weight, and seemed timid. He used to be so elegant and handsome, holding the hand of a skinny dark girl about 10, sweet and gentle looking. That's Bella. Seeing Bella's face, I was shocked. She had 2 ugly burn scars on her left cheek. Probably because of those scars, Bella kept her head down. Seeing tall and beautiful Joey made her more self-conscious, even slouched a little. Joey's always been mature, I thought. She knows my past, recognizes who this father and daughter are, and smiled at me. You have stuff to discuss with this uncle? I can take this little sister out to play. I suddenly remembered what happened in my past life. Bella with her mom went after me, even in my last moments, asking Benton when I would die, so her dad could marry her mom soon. I don't trust Bella. I can't let Joey get hurt. No need. I turned to Dylan. You and Joey go out for a bit. Don't bring anyone else. Dylan may appear like a playboy, but he's actually honest and pure-hearted, listens to me well. He nodded right away, sure, you guys chat. Saying that, Dylan tugged Joey's arm and walked out. Passing by Benton, he smiled politely. Sir, please excuse us. I held my forehead. He's not much older than you, call him brother. Oh, sorry. Dylan shrugged, embarrassed, and grinned. Could you please move, big brother? Benton was super awkward, hurriedly stepping aside against the wall. After Dylan and Joey left, I gestured to Benton, inviting him to sit. Benton led Bella over and sat on the sofa across from me. I had 2 security guards pour tea, serve fruits, and signaled them to keep an eye on Benton, making sure he didn't try anything. Is there something you need from me? I stayed alert, smiling as I asked. Benton looked at me, then lowered his gaze and hugged his daughter. Bella is a big fan of yours, he said. She wants your autograph. He gave Bella a gentle nudge. You were all excited at home, so why so quiet now? Bella looked at me shyly, her eyes darting around mischievously. Hi, I'm Bella, she said. I've seen a lot of your TV shows and movies. I just love you. I often think if only you were my mom. Thanks for being a fan, I replied, handing Bella an orange. There was no need to ask. Clearly, an adult prompted those words. I smiled faintly at Benton and asked, You're here because you need something, right? Benton's expression was complicated. Mary, can we talk privately? No. I rejected the idea outright. Benton stared at me intently. Mary, I've been reborn too. Kate, hearing this, I motioned for the bodyguard to take Bella outside. Just in case, I left the bodyguard Larry with me. He'd been with me for years, someone I could absolutely trust. I picked up my tea and took a sip. When did you come back? Last month. Benton's eyes were filled with tears. I remember everything, Mary. The last life, this life, all of it. He suddenly knelt down. Back then, I hated you for bringing Mark over to catch me and Kate at home. But now I remember everything, and I totally deserve this. Even if I died 10 times, it wouldn't make up for your hatred. I turned away, looking out the window. Why bring up the past? Since we divorced, let's just live our own lives. I really didn't want to waste words with this man. Glancing at my watch, I said, I have plans, can't chat longer. Mary. Benton crawled forward a bit, blocking me. Even if you hate me, Bella was raised by you. You can't be so cold-blooded to her. I chuckled, finally getting to the point. Before coming back to West City, I had people look into Benton and Kate. That couple got married quickly back then. Initially happy, but soon reality hit them hard. Kate had to care for Benton's bedridden mom and raise a child, while Benton's career took a dive, lowering their income. With mouths to feed and expenses everywhere, Kate got exhausted after 2 years and thought about taking the college entrance exam again. But the exam changed every year, and she hadn't studied in ages, lacking energy and time to catch up. The lovebirds, torn apart by obstacles, initially now argued daily. Kate, upset, took to playing cards, leaving young Bella with the grandparents. That winter was harsh, and many rural households secretly used electric heaters. The elderly caretakers didn't pay attention, and Bella fell, burning her face on the heater. Afterwards, Benton and Kate argued and fought almost daily. Kate blamed Benton for being unambitious, ruining her future. Benton accused Kate of seducing him, causing him to lose his true love and job. In recent years, Kate reconnected with a high school classmate. They hit it off like rain after a drought, blatantly cheating on Benton. Unable to take it, Benton filed for divorce. Now he approached me, either to ask me back or to ask for money. Fighting to stay awake, I yawned and asked Benton, what do you need? Benton propped himself up on the table. Mary, look at you, so glamorous and successful. Now that you're making big bucks, could you lend me $1 million for old time's sake? I couldn't help but laugh. How much? Do you seriously think you can ask for that? Benton glanced at the bodyguard, sitting up straighter. Because you brought Mark to burn Kate's college acceptance letter. Aren't you worried your fans will find out you ruined someone's future? I shook my head with a smile. Not worried at all. Benton was infuriated by my indifference, slamming the table with a fist. I was reported by an anonymous letter back then. I thought a jealous coworker did it. Later I got a copy, even went to the post office multiple times. The letter came from you. You'll get karma for ruining a future and framing your ex. I looked at myself. But right now, I'm doing just fine, aren't I? Benton squinted. You don't fear me sharing this with the media? Feel free. I lounged on the couch. Through the years, I've endured filthier scandal. This is nothing. If we're going down, let's both go down together. Who knows? Fans might see me as a badass taking down a cheater and mistress, and I'd gain even more followers. Benton choked on his anger, breathing hard. Finally, he slumped, pleading once more. Even if you hate me, you raised Bella. Her face is scarred. How's she supposed to live the rest of her life? Not worried about shame, Benton continued. After you left, I married Kate. She's horrible, used to living extravagantly, and cheated on me for money. She even stole Bella's dowry. Her family revoked the engagement right away. I nodded and smiled. So what? Benton pleaded. I beg you to fund Bella's surgery. She still needs to have a family and future. My life is a bust, but she's still young. I refused without hesitation. Not my problem. Are you even human? Benton jabbed a finger at me. Suddenly, he dashed toward the window. If you don't help, I'll jump. Sneering, he continued, if someone dies here, let's see your career stay afloat. Larry approached, trying to calm Benton. Sir, let's calm down and talk through this. Benton seemed determined. There's nothing to discuss with this cold, selfish woman. Mary, answer now, will you give the money or not? No. I got up slowly. Benton, you truly disappoint me. Grinding his teeth, Benton opened the window halfway, stepped out. For my daughter, I'll do anything. I chuckled. Are you sure Bella is your daughter? Benton froze. What are you implying? I fetched a videotape from my luggage, tossing it on the floor. Initially, I brought it to West City for you. It's meaningless to me now. I continued mildly. Did you ever wonder why I treated Bella like my own last time around? I miscarried several times, unable to have my own kid. Seeing how you doted on Bella, didn't I suspect something? Benton's face gradually drained of color. What do you mean? Exactly. I sighed deeply. Back then, I saw how overly you pampered Bella. I suspected she might actually be your illegitimate child from outside, intentionally left at our doorstep for me to pick up and raise. So I took your and Bella's hair and secretly did a DNA test. Unfortunately, you are not biologically related as father and daughter. Benton yelled at me like he'd gone crazy. You're spouting nonsense. I looked at him with sympathy. Mom is definitely her biological mom, but as for Dad, not so sure. If you don't believe me, go test it yourself. Benton looked like he was about to pass out. He leaned against the wall, gave me a deep look, and left with his head down. I walked over and closed the window. It's already spring, but a sudden gust of wind came through, chilling to the bone. Half a month later, my trip to the west side of the city ended, and before boarding the plane, I bought a newspaper. The recent front page headline was about a rural teacher murder case. It said that the teacher came home to find his wife in a fling with her old lover. The usually calm guy couldn't take it anymore and committed murder with a knife. Blood was everywhere, and only their little daughter was left crying on the ground, calling out for Mom and Dad. So pitiful. Who knows who she was calling for? I stared blankly at the newspaper and let out a sigh. Just then, Dylan leaned over and wrapped his arm around me. What are you thinking about? I leaned against him and gave a soft smile, thinking about how it's spring and we shouldn't waste it. Once we get off the plane, we gotta eat well, drink well, and have fun. All right, I'll join you, he said. The end.